Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, or whenever you see this video. Thank you for checking it out, and thank you for subscribing to me on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, all the social medias, and including I'll put this on Threads. What I want to talk with you guys about, and I intend to have this be quickly, but it probably isn't going to be. Maybe it's going to be about 5-10 minutes. We'll see. Is, or maybe more, is that today, January 8th, we have Mercury square Neptune. And Neptune I call the fog planet. And I also could call it where we experience more the qualities of intuition or imagination or just shit we can't explain. What's beyond the pale of concrete and ordinary consciousness. And that could manifest with people lying. It could manifest with, in terms of poetry, or feeling inspired, or inspired writing, or automatic writing. These are the ways in which it can manifest. And my intention is to not talk about this as a horoscope, or this is what should be happening for this week or for the 8th. I'm not doing that kind of astrology in the general public actively or consistently anymore. Longer story about why, and I think I've said a little bit about that. But I came across a story that's making the rounds on social media about the sighting of Nephilim or particular beings, aliens, in Miami at the Bayside Mall. And I believe it happened within the last week or so, maybe the last 2 days even. And it's funny to me because my two nieces about 2 weeks ago called me out of the blue and say, "Uncle Sam, what do you know about the Nephilim?" Which kind of threw me off guard because it's not every day you hear someone asking about the Nephilim. And for those who don't know, Nephilim are referring to creatures, as recorded in the Bible, who are the product of angels mating with human beings. And they were said to be very large, like giants, and very powerful. And in fact, becoming like kings and queens. It's from the Bible. I don't, this might offend some people, but I don't take the Bible as a record of history or a statement of history. But I do take it as a statement of the power of myth, along the same lines as Joseph Campbell talks about it. And what's interesting is that I'm going to actually share a video from someone who was there at the mall and recounts an experience. Now, I don't know this guy from Adam. Nothing. I don't know if he's lying or not, or clout chasing, whatever. It seems like he's sincere, at least in his recounting of what he saw. But irrespective of what's been claimed, whether they're aliens, they're Nephilim, whatever you've heard related to this story, I want you to keep a couple things in mind, and things that I actively keep in mind that I think might be helpful. Especially as we're going into this particular moment with Pluto going into Aquarius, other things happening, where stories like this may become even more common in sightings. And I don't think I was happy with my answer I gave to my nieces, because basically I was like, wait, what? Nephilim? What do you want me to say about them? They're mythic creatures that are recorded in the Bible. And, and then we went on talking about other things. What I want to recommend to you is an author, and specifically a book, but I'm going to talk about why I'm recommending this author and this book to you related to this topic. And the book is, and I know that this appears backwards, so I will read it again and again. The author's name is Patrick Harpur, spelled with a U at the end, Harpur. And the book is Demonic Reality, a field guide to the otherworldly. Again, Demonic Reality, a field guide to the otherworldly. And he has at least I have 4 of his books. Another book of a similar kind I would recommend, A Complete Guide to the Soul. That's what it says here. Patrick Harper. He's also written The Philosopher's Secret Fire. He also has a book. I don't have that book. I have another book with him about the soul. And one other novel, I think the only novel he's written, is called Mercurius, which is an interesting book. I mean, it's a thick tome, but it dives deep into a lot of the ideas he gives in this book. Now, I was exposed to this book, I want to say, at least 20 years ago. I believe it came out, in 2003 was the second edition. So I believe I got it when it first came out. Why am I recommending this book? I'm recommending this book because I am not going to say and be arrogant enough to say that nothing happened at that mall. I wasn't there. I don't know. Likely you weren't there either. The police are saying, like, no, there was just some fireworks. People freaked out. There, that video that's circulating, not the video I'm going to show or put on my feed, but there's another video where there was, seemingly a very tall person or creature hovering over the police. And the police have said, oh, that was just a shadow of someone walking by. Now, I'm not going to believe the police in everything for some obvious reasons. But what I do know is that we often have encounters with things we can't explain. And this has been true, as Patrick Harper talks about in Demonic Reality, for most of our history. And what that means is that every culture has sought to explain things that they can't explain in the ways that they understand things. So whether we are talking about perceiving these beings or things that happen as angels, as gods, as now per our very scientific culture, aliens, or interdimensional beings, one thing to keep in mind is that we are looking at it through the prism of how we understand things, not necessarily how they are. And the significance of that is that we don't know what we might be looking at, but no need to get so much in the doubt of like, oh, I'm not looking at anything. Or in the more of the mindset, it's not anything. So when people rush to say, oh, it's aliens, it could be jinn. Jinn are historical, I shouldn't say historical, but mythological figures who have appeared in Arabic history and lore even before the advent of Islam. And they're creatures made of pure fire, or smokeless fire. And by virtue of appearing as smokeless fire, they can take on the image of things that are around them. Now, when I say this and recount this to you, that doesn't mean that, well, that's what they were. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that we understand things through the prism of culture in the ways that we understand things, which is not to say that's what they are. So rather than rushing to, like, they're interdimensional beings, they're aliens, they're jinn, they're angels, they're demons, I would encourage you to realize that when we're talking about the realm or the reality of the demonic, we're talking about the pure realm on some level as we might understand it, of spirit, of the encounter with the things that require us to look at things with a softer lens, a softer way of understanding the world, more where lines get blurry, like Neptune. Like the moment where you think you're seeing, in your bed, especially if you're scared of the dark, that you're seeing particular shadows moving around you, which doesn't mean that there are literally shadows moving around you, but it also doesn't mean they're not. It may be that, yes, your mind's playing tricks on you, But maybe there's a deeper message. Maybe something is trying to break through to say something to us in a collective, or to say something to us individually. I have seen things, I have seen creatures, or I would better say beings, I couldn't explain at the time. And then when I have been able to explain, I wouldn't be able to explain scientifically or in some way that wouldn't sound insane. That doesn't mean they didn't happen. It means that we have to approach this again in a way that allows for a reality that's beyond the pale of what we see. And when I talk about the demonic, I am not saying the demonic. Demonic is a corruption of the Greek idea of daemon or daimon. And the daimon was said to be a spirit that incarnates with you, that helps you fulfill the dimensions of your fate. And according to one particular myth, Greek myth called the myth of E-R, according to that myth, it is a fate that you chose before you incarnated into this current sensibility of yourself. That is not me advocating for reincarnation. It is relaying that the mysteries of life and death and what's beyond life and death may be much more complicated than we understand, and more of that numinosity, that mysteriousness that isn't easily categorized, which is perhaps the nature of Mercury square Neptune as we're experiencing today. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. I'm going probably over than these 10 minutes I promised, but I think I wanted to at least touch base with how to understand these things. And even though I'm not giving you like, well, you didn't give me the definitive ways to understand it, maybe it's like that you're trusting and receiving something that you don't have to rush to identify or categorize. Something happened. Something occurred that might have been just mass delusion or something breaking through. And maybe it would take us to contemplate and to think, what's the message now? I don't have the answer per se, but I think it's important to pose the questions. Thank you.